The day the sky turned black, the alien patrol ship drifted silently at the edge of the Vega sector. Its crew relaxed, thinking the border was safe. It had been many years since the last war with humans, and the Coalition believed Earth's fleets had been destroyed or disbanded. The stars above were calm, shining like tiny silver sparks in the black ocean of space. Commander Shire, an old Zorath officer, leaned back in his chair. His scaled fingers tapped on the armrest, bored with the oar. "Quiet night shift. Nothing ever happens out here," he muttered. The young sensor officer beside him gave a lazy nod. Then the alarm screamed, the ship's radar flashed red. Sensor readings went wild. Unidentified objects, large, fast, and silent, were approaching. From deep space, at first, the crew thought it was a sensor glitch. But then the stars began to disappear. One by one, pinpoints of light vanished as something massive blocked them. Shire froze. His mind flashed back to old war records, stories told by veterans who had survived the human fleet. A single fleet that had destroyed the Coalition's strongest armada in one battle. He remembered the fear in their voices, the way they described human ships as wolves among sheep. The young officer's voice cracked. "Commander, they're huge." Through the viewing screen, the black shapes grew larger. Their outlines shimmered with faint light, revealing armor plating that seemed to drink in the starlight. It was not one ship, nor two, nor even 10. The computer struggled to count them, but when the final number appeared, the bridge went silent. 11. The patrol ship trembled as if the very void feared what had come. The largest vessel, a dreadnought nearly the size of a small moon, moved into the center of the formation. It was flanked by 10 others identical to the one from the old war. Only now there were 10 more. Shire's throat went dry. "It's them," he whispered. The words felt heavy, as if speaking them made it real. A faint hum echoed through the patrol ship's comm system. Then a voice spoke calm, steady and unmistakably human. "Coalition forces." "This is Admiral Rhodes of the United Terran Navy," the voice said. "We warned you once. You didn't listen." The message cut out, replaced by silence. But the silence was worse than the words. The crew could almost feel the cold weight of what was coming. Shire ordered the patrol ship to retreat. Engines roared. But the human fleet did not move to stop them. Instead, the massive formation simply drifted forward, slowly, like a predator that knew its prey had nowhere to run. Across the Vega sector, the same scene unfolded. Patrol ships, stations, and trade vessels all reported the same thing: stars disappearing, skies turning black, and human ships blotting out the light. Panic spread across the sector like wildfire. News reached the Coalition's Central Command within hours. Admiral Kale, leader of the Coalition fleet, stood over the holographic map, watching 11 red markers advance toward their borders. He had fought in the First War. He had been one of the few to survive, and he knew better than anyone what those ships meant. "They only sent one fleet before," Kale said quietly, his voice low, "and it was enough to shatter us." He turned to his officers. "Now they've sent 10 more. The room was silent. Every officer there knew the truth. No one in the galaxy had the strength to stop that many human fleets. On distant worlds, civilians looked up and saw shadows pass over the sun. Cities paused, markets emptied, and people ran to shelters. In every place where a human ship passed overhead, the air seemed colder. Back on the patrol ship, Commander Shire could still see the massive formation on his long-range scanners. They weren't coming in fast. They didn't need to. The humans were sending a message, a slow, terrifying reminder. The young officer whispered, "Why now? Why come back after all these years?" Shire didn't answer. He just stared at the black shapes until they filled half the screen. The dreadnought's hull reflected a faint glimmer from a nearby star, but the rest was pure darkness, like a piece of night carved into the shape of war. Then the fleet vanished, not in a puff of smoke, but in a sudden, impossible jump. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. The scanners blinked, confused, and then lit up again, this time showing the human fleet much closer. Right on the edge of Coalition territory, the day the sky turned black was only the beginning. Ghosts of the First War, the Coalition's Central Command was alive with panic. Officers ran from console to console, data streams flashing warnings in every language of the Alliance. The 11 red markers on the galactic map moved with steady precision, cutting across the darkness like blades. Admiral Kale stood perfectly. Still, his hands were clasped behind his back, but his jaw was tight. His eyes never left the holographic projection. Each red marker was a human fleet, each one a nightmare from the past. Years ago, when the First War began, the Coalition had been arrogant. They believed humanity was weak, a young species with little experience in galactic warfare. So they had sent their strongest armada, 40,000 ships, to crush Earth in one swift strike. The war had lasted only 3 days. Kale could still see it in his mind, the sudden arrival of the human fleet in the Orion sector. How their ships moved as if they were one being, how their weapons tore through shields like they were paper. He remembered the sound of his own crew, screaming as one by one. Their ships fell silent. On the main screen in the present, images of the First War replayed for the council members. The footage was grainy, recorded from fleeing ships. It showed a massive black vessel, the Atlas, charging straight into the heart of the Coalition's formation. Railguns thundered. Beams of energy sliced through dreadnought armor. Entire cruisers were split in half in a single volley. Kale had survived only because his ship had been disabled early in the fight and drifted out of the kill zone. He had watched helplessly as the rest of the fleet burned. The Coalition council chamber was tense. The alien ministers whispered among themselves, their voices sharp with fear. A tall, insectoid delegate from the Cretar clicked his mandibles. "They only sent one fleet before," he said, "and they shattered us now. Now there are 11. Another delegate, a pale-skinned Virang, slammed a hand on the table. "We must prepare every defense. Every ship, every weapon." Kale shook his head. "It won't matter," he said quietly. "You don't understand how they fight. You don't understand how they think." One of the younger officers, a reptilian named Vorik, frowned. "Then tell us, Admiral, what are we facing?" Kale turned, his eyes cold. "We are facing a predator that doesn't waste movement, doesn't waste fire. They fight like they've already won, because in their minds they have." There was silence. The only sound was the hum of the holographic display. On a distant moon, far from the council chamber, an old war veteran sat in a dim tavern. His body was scarred, his left eye replaced with a cybernetic lens. He was telling a group of young soldiers about the First War. "They didn't talk much," the veteran said, staring into his drink. "When the humans came, they didn't taunt us, didn't shout victory cries. They just came, and everything died." One of the soldiers laughed nervously. "But that was years ago. We've improved our weapons since then." The veteran looked at him with pity. "Son, it's not about weapons. It's about them. You think they've been sleeping all these years? No, they've been building, waiting, watching, and now they're back. Back at Central Command." Kale received the first intercepted transmission from the human fleet. It was short, only one sentence, but it froze the entire room. "We finish." "What we start?" The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Kale ordered immediate evacuation of border colonies. Civilian ships began fleeing toward the core worlds, but the human fleets were already cutting off the main hyperspace lanes. They were herding the Coalition like cattle, controlling where they could run. In deep space, the lead human dreadnought, Atlas II, drifted silently among its sister ships. On the command deck, Admiral Rhodes stood with his arms folded. His crew worked in silence, every movement precise. Rhodes' eyes scanned the tactical map, marking key Coalition strongholds. A young human officer approached. "Sir, the coalition is mobilizing. Do we engage now?" Rhodes shook his head. "Not yet. Let them see us coming. Let the fear do half the work for us." The human fleet continued its slow, deliberate advance. Every world they passed fell silent. Every fleet that moved to intercept vanished from the com channels in the council chamber. Kale stared at the red markers drawing closer. He knew the ghosts of the First War had returned. But this time, they weren't ghosts at all. They were very, very real. And they were bringing an ending. The galaxy would never forget. Asterisk. The human message. The coalition's war room was drowning in noise. Dozens of voices overlapped, warnings and reports flooding the air. But when the comms officer shouted, "Incoming transmission," every sound stopped. Admiral Kale's eyes narrowed. "Source?" The officer swallowed. "Human fleet, sir." "Direct channel." A deep static hum filled the chamber. For a moment, it was only noise. Then a voice broke through, clear, steady, and cold as space itself. "This is Admiral Rhodes of the United Terran Navy," the voice said. "Years ago. We gave you a warning. You ignored it. You came to our worlds, burned our cities, and killed our people." The voice paused, letting the silence bite deeper. "We told you there would not be a second warning." The council members shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered to each other in fear. Others kept their eyes locked on the glowing image of the human emblem, a simple black and silver symbol of Earth projected above the table. "You thought we were gone," Rhodes continued. "But we were watching. We were building. And now we have returned. We finish what we start." The transmission cut out. The hologram faded, and the silence was deafening. Kale could feel the tension in the room. It wasn't just fear, it was the understanding that this was no bluff. Humans didn't speak this way unless they meant every word. On the front lines, coalition fleets scrambled to prepare defensive lines. Massive warships deployed across star systems, energy shields humming to life, pilots strapped into their fighters, nervous hands gripping controls in the Vega outpost. Commander Shire watched from his bridge as the human formation advanced. It wasn't fast, it wasn't reckless. It was controlled, deliberate, like a predator stalking wounded prey. "They're not rushing," Shire muttered. "They want us to see them coming." Hours later, the coalition's long-range scans picked up a terrifying pattern. The human fleets were splitting into two groups. Each was heading toward a separate cluster of inhabited worlds. It was a strategy. Kale recognized immediately: divide, isolate, and crush. In the human command center aboard Atlas II, Admiral Rhodes stood beside a massive tactical display. His officers worked quietly, plotting hyperspace jumps and target lists. Operation Eclipse will proceed on schedule. Rhodes said, "No unnecessary destruction. We want their fleets, not their rubble." One officer looked up. "Sir, what about the civilian colonies?" Rhodes' gaze didn't waver. "We are not here for civilians, but any resistance will be erased." The coalition intercepted a second transmission not long after. It was different, no cold threats this time. Just 5 simple words broadcast on every open channel. "We are already among you." The message hit harder than any weapon. It meant human ships had slipped past their defenses, hidden in the darkness, waiting for the order to strike. Panic exploded across coalition space. Civilian ships clogged the hyperspace lanes. Entire planets declared martial law, and military forces abandoned their posts to protect homeworlds. Kale knew exactly what was happening. Humans weren't just fighting a war. They were breaking the will to fight, and they were doing it without firing a single shot. On the far edge of the Andros Nebula, a small coalition scout ship picked up a faint signal. The crew thought it was debris. Until it moved, the black shape was enormous, its hull absorbing light, and it was accompanied by smaller vessels flanking it like hunting dogs. The scout captain whispered, "It's them," before the comms went dead. Hours later, coalition Command received the final piece of data from that ship, a single image of a human, dreadnought drifting above an unarmed colony world. Its guns were silent, but its presence was enough to make millions hide underground. Back in the war room, Cale turned to the council. His voice was low but unshuckable. "We're not facing an enemy that's coming to fight us head on. We're facing one that's already here, inside our space, inside our minds." Some council members demanded negotiations. Others wanted to launch a preemptive strike, but Cale knew better. You don't negotiate with a predator in the middle of the hunt, he said. You survive? If it lets you. The human fleets kept advancing, and in the shadows, their hidden ships waited. The galaxy could feel the noose tightening, and no one knew when the final pull would come. Shadows and thunder. The first strike came without warning. In the Coloran Belt, a coalition battle group floated between the glittering rings of a frozen gas giant. Their job was simple: hold the line, prevent the human fleets from advancing. The commanders believed they had time to prepare, but time had already run out. It began with a faint ripple in space. The sensor crews frowned, thinking it was interference from the gas giant's magnetic field. Then the ripple turned into a shadow. A long black shape emerged, followed by another and another, until the entire formation appeared out of nothing. The human fleets had arrived. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls absorbing the light. Railgun turrets pivoting with machine-like precision. The lead dreadnought, Atlas II, drifted forward as if daring the coalition to fire first. Open fire. The coalition admiral shouted. The stars lit up. Beams of plasma and energy bolts filled the void, striking the black shapes head-on. For a moment, the commanders thought they had landed a blow, but when the light cleared, the human ships were still there, shields holding, armor unscarred. Then the humans answered. The first volley from the Atlas II ripped through a coalition destroyer, splitting it in half in a single shot. Railguns fired in rapid sequence, their slugs moving faster. And the eye could track. Each one punched through multiple ships, leaving trails of glowing debris. Coalition fighters swarmed forward, hoping to overwhelm the humans with numbers. But the Terran interceptors were already moving, darting between enemy craft with impossible agility. Every missile they launched found a target. Every shot hit exactly where it needed to. On the bridge of Atlas II, Admiral Rhodes stood calm, watching the chaos unfold. "Maintain formation," he ordered. "No wasted shots. No unnecessary targets." The humans didn't just fight, they hunted. Every move was calculated. Every strike dismantled the coalition's ability to respond. In less than 20 minutes, half the coalition battle group was gone. The rest was in disarray, trying to retreat. "Cut them off," Rhodes said. The human fleets moved like a closing fist, ships sweeping in from all directions, cutting off escape vectors. Coalition vessels slammed into each other in the panic, their formations collapsing. From his crippled flagship, the coalition admiral sent a desperate transmission to Central. "Command, we can't hold them. They're everywhere." His voice cracked as the feed dissolved into static. Moments before his ship exploded, back at coalition headquarters, Admiral Cale received the report in silence. He had expected a loss, but not this fast, not this completely. "They're not attacking for territory," Cale said to his officers. "They're attacking for fear. They want every captain, every soldier, to know what it feels like to face them." The human fleet's victory was not the end. It was the beginning of something worse. After the Coloran Belt, human ships began striking in multiple sectors at once, appearing and disappearing without warning. A mining colony in the Varick system reported black shapes blotting out the sun before their coms went dead. A fleet near the Soroth Gate was surrounded and wiped out in 12 minutes. It was thunder without warning. Shadow before the storm, Commander Shire, now reassigned to a deep space outpost, watched the chaos from his bridge. His crew spoke in hushed voices. afraid that even their words might draw attention from the human fleets. "They're breaking us without taking a single world," Shire said quietly. "When they do take one, it will be over." In the dark void beyond the Coalition's borders, Admiral Rhodes studied the latest maps. The Coalition's defenses were collapsing exactly as planned. "They'll have one stronghold left when we're done," Rhodes said, his voice steady. "And when we take it, the galaxy will remember it for 1,000 years." The storm was only beginning, and every shadow in space now belonged to humanity. The fall of the stronghold. The Coalition's last great fortress world was called Dravic Prime. It was more than a planet. It was a symbol, a place said to be untouchable. Layers of defense shields wrapped the world like an armored shell. Hundreds of warships patrolled its orbit. Massive ground cannons aimed at the skies. For centuries, Dravic Prime had been the heart of Coalition power. No enemy had ever reached it. The people believed it could never fall. Until now, Admiral Kale stood in the command tower, staring at the tactical map. Red markers human fleets were closing in from 3 directions. The outer sectors had already gone silent. The stronghold was alone. "Activate all shields," Kale ordered. "Call every ship, every pilot, every gunner. This will be the battle that decides the galaxy." In the blackness of space, the human fleets appeared like shadows breaking through light. 11. Massive formations, moving as one. The Atlas II led the charge, flanked by carriers and heavy cruisers. Their weapons were silent for now, but the tension was suffocating. The first strike came fast. Human railguns roared, their shots slamming into the outer ring of Coalition ships. The defenders answered with everything they had, filling the void with plasma fire, missile storms, and beam lances. For a moment, the battle was chaos, explosions lighting the darkness. Wreckage drifted between the fleets. Fighters spiraled in deadly dogfights. But the humans didn't break formation. Every ship moved with precision, targeting key defense points. Coalition cruisers guarding the shield generators vanished in brilliant fireballs, leaving gaps in the planetary barrier. On the ground, the people of Dravic Prime watched in fear as the blue shimmer of their protective shield flickered under the bombardment. Sirens wailed across cities. Citizens ran for shelters. In orbit, Kale's flagship Iron Spear engaged the Atlas II directly. Their massive cannons traded blows, the void between them glowing with constant fire. Kale gritted his teeth. "If we take the lead ship, we break their morale." But Rhodes wasn't here to lose. "Focus on the Iron Spear," Rhodes ordered calmly. Every Terran cruiser in range turned its guns on Kale's ship. The barrage was relentless. Chunks of armor peeled away, and internal fires raged. Kale's bridge shook violently. Crew members thrown to the floor, but still he refused to retreat. "We hold until the last breath," he shouted. Then came the turning point. One of Dravic Prime's massive shield generators exploded. A hole opened in the planetary defense net. The humans didn't hesitate. Bombers and dropships streamed through the gap, descending toward the surface. The Coalition's ground forces fought with desperation. Tanks rolled through burning streets. Anti-air batteries filled the skies with fire. But the humans were unstoppable. Their infantry moved with the same precision as their fleets. Every squad striking exactly where defenses were weakest. In the command tower, Kale's officers begged him to retreat, but he shook his head. "This planet is the heart of the Coalition. If it falls, everything falls." The Atlas II fired its main railgun. The shot tore through the Iron Spear from bow to stern. The ship split apart, fire consuming it. Kale stood tall until the end, refusing to leave his post. When his flagship exploded, the Coalition's remaining ships faltered. Some tried to flee, others surrendered, but the humans gave no chance for regrouping. Within hours, Dravic Prime's skies belonged to Earth. Human flags flew over its citadels. The Terran fleet hung in orbit, casting their shadows over the broken. World Admiral Rhodes sent one message to every corner of the galaxy. His voice was calm, almost quiet. The fortress has fallen. Remember this day? The people of the galaxy would remember, not because of the destruction, but because of how easily it had been done. The final stand, the fall of Dravik Prime, broke the Coalition's spirit. Worlds surrendered without a fight. Fleets scattered, and entire sectors fell silent. But in the far reaches of the Orion expanse, one last gathering began. It was not the largest fleet in Coalition history, nor the strongest, but it was the last. Every remaining warship capable of flight converged on the coordinates. Old frigates, half-broken destroyers, and a few surviving. Dreadnoughts. Their commanders knew they could not win, but they came anyway. In the center of this battered armada stood the Vigil's Honor, the new flagship under Admiral Torvik, a stern and unshaken commander. He addressed his captains in a final transmission. "We are the line between humanity and the heart of the galaxy," he said. "We may fall, but we will make them bleed for every ship, for every world." Across the void, the human fleets approached. 11 formations. Still perfect, still calm. The Atlas II led at the center. Admiral Rhodes standing silent on the bridge. His officers waited for orders, but he simply watched. When the two forces met, there was no warning, no parley. The humans struck first. Railguns thundered. Torpedoes streaked through the dark. Coalition ships were ripped apart in the opening minutes. But this time, the Coalition didn't break. Their lines held. Dreadnoughts moved forward, sacrificing themselves to cover smaller ships. Fighters swarmed like angry hornets, diving into human formations. The battle became a storm. The void flashed. With explosions, debris fields drifted between firing lines. Entire squadrons vanished in seconds, replaced by the glow of dying reactors. On the Vigil's honor, Torvik ordered a direct charge into the center of the human formation. His plan was desperate drive straight for the Atlas II. Take it down and hope the others faltered. The Vigil's honor roared through the chaos, guns blazing, hull shuddering under constant fire. It broke through the first Terran line, then the second, until the Atlas II was directly ahead. Torvik's eyes narrowed. All weapons, full power. Target their bridge. For the first time in the war, the humans shifted their formation. Cruisers swung around to block the path, absorbing the Coalition's fire. Their sacrifice bought Rhodes the seconds he needed. The Atlas I's main railgun fired. The slug punched through the Vigil's honor, tearing a hole so massive that its lights flickered out. Torvik stood at his command chair, refusing to evacuate. One by one, the Coalition ships fell. The humans moved like closing jaws, surrounding the survivors. In a perfect kill box, every escape vector was cut off, every movement predicted. The Coalition's last fighters made suicide runs, smashing into Terran ships in final acts of defiance. But it wasn't enough. The trap closed, and the last great fleet of the Coalition was gone. On the bridge of the Atlas II, Rhodes stood over the tactical map. The red blips of enemy ships winked out one after another. He did not smile. He simply gave the final order. Secure the field, no survivors. When the last Coalition vessel exploded, the battlefield was silent. Wreckage drifted slowly in the void, glowing faintly under distant starlight. In the command archives, the battle would later be called Silence Trap, a fight where the galaxy's last hope had been swallowed whole. For the first time in living memory, there was no one left to challenge Earth. The war was over, but the fear had only just begun. The silence after the war ended not with a final explosion, but with an absence. Across the galaxy, battle reports stopped coming. Emergency signals went silent. The Coalition fleets were gone, their strongholds in ruins, their leaders dead. In the cities of alien worlds, people stepped outside and looked to the skies, expecting to see burning ships or raining fire. Instead, they saw only darkness. High above, The silhouettes of human dreadnoughts drifted in silent orbit, casting their shadows over everything. The Atlas II hung over Dravik Prime like a black sun. Its weapons were quiet, its engines cold, yet no one dared to move against it. From the largest capitals to the smallest outposts, everyone knew the galaxy belonged to Earth now. But humanity did not conquer in the way the Coalition had feared. They did not install governors, did not claim planets as trophies. Instead, they sent a single message to every system. It was short, spoken in a calm voice that carried more weight than any weapon. We have no interest in ruling you. We have no need for your worlds or your wealth. Remember this only when you think of war. Think of us. The message ended, and the human fleets began to withdraw. Slowly, deliberately, they vanished into the dark, leaving wreckage and silence behind. On Dravik Prime, survivors emerged from bunkers. Their cities still stood, but their pride was gone. Children whispered about the black ships, their voices trembling. Veterans refused to speak of what they had seen. In the distant markets of neutral space, merchants told stories of how the humans had fought not with reckless rage, but with perfect, cold precision. They spoke of fleets moving as one mind, of weapons that could tear apart a fortress in seconds, and of the terrible stillness that followed their battles. Legends began to spread. Some said the humans had fleets hidden in every shadow of space. Others claimed Earth had built weapons so powerful they could destroy a sun. The truth didn't matter. Fear was the real weapon, and it had already won. On the bridge of the Atlas II, Admiral Rhodes stood alone, gazing out at the stars. His officers worked quietly around him. No celebrations, no cheering. They had done what they came to do. A junior officer approached cautiously. "Sir, the galaxy is ours. What now?" Rhodes did not turn. His eyes stayed on the endless dark. "Now, we wait," he said. "We wait, and we watch." The fleets dispersed into the void, disappearing from sight, but never from memory. In the years that followed, no power dared to rise against Earth. The Coalition was gone, replaced by a quiet, uneasy peace. Whenever border disputes flared, the mere rumor of a Terran ship in the area was enough to end it. The day would come when the humans would fight again. That was the unspoken truth. No one knew when, no one knew where, but the galaxy had learned one lesson. When the humans came, they would finish what they started, and so the stars themselves seemed to dim whenever whispers of their return began, as if even the universe remembered the day the sky turned black. Asterisk.